A very big hello to all my wonderful PU2 and KCET champions. I hope all my dear children are doing absolutely good. And I welcome you all to today's Masterstroke series where we are going to deal with the chapter Organisms and Population. Now this chapter is Chota chapter, right? But we call some people Chota Don, right? Chota Don. I mean they are very small but still they are like Don, right? Similarly, I consider this chapter also as Chota Don. This chapter, biodiversity and conservation and also ecosystem. Why? All of them are chota chapters, very small chapters. But you know what? They give you questions which makes you think, oh my God, I should have studied these chapters well, because it's that twisted. They go very deep into the NCERT and they ask questions. And I saw 2 questions in the MCQ and I was like, oh my God, this might be difficult for children also. So make sure that whenever you deal with this chapter, okay, one shot video I am providing, you can trust me on this, everything will be covered. But I have one request, please read the NCERT parallelly as well, such that you do not miss even a single bit of information out there. Okay, please have that in your head. And I'll be showing you the question, I'll be solving it for you as well, but please have that. Okay, works. Let's go. And if at all you're liking this lecture, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and the like button as well. Okay. Starting with the first thing that we have is, what do you mean by population? My dear children, you, me, okay, we belong to what? Same species, right? So basically population is a group of individuals belonging to same species and staying in a specific area, sharing resources, and also potentially they can go ahead and do interbreeding, as in basically they can go ahead and do sexual intercourse, producing fertile offspring. So this group of individuals which can do all these things, yeah, they have to be of the same species, they have to be living in a specific area, they have to share the resources, and also should be potentially interbreeding, are known as population. Okay, now you know population, it's a group of individuals. What do you mean by individual? Individual means only one single person. So in this one single person, you do not have birth rate and death rate and things like that. You just have birth and death. I was born, I'll die one day, right? That's all. But when you talk about population, there is birth rate and death rate. And this is something that you need to know, because you get numerical based question on the basis of this. Mathematics and biology, not a great combo, but yes, it happens. So example, if 8 new lotus plants grow in a pond with 20 existing ones, birth rate would be what? So basically, just understand the question. Initially, the existing population was what? 20, Baba. Okay, and the new ones which are being added up, the new ones which are being added up are how many? Over here, you can clearly see 8 new lotus plants are being added up. Okay, so I'll write 8 divided by 20. This is my initial population. This is the new number of organisms which are being added up, right? And you also have to talk about the time period. Suppose it is happening in 1 year. So I'll just put into 1. What would be my answer for this question? 8 divided by 20, if at all I do the calculation, it comes out to be 0.4. Now, how do you write the birth rate? Always remember, you mentioned the organism which is producing it. Okay, organism for which you are finding the birth rate. For example, you're talking about lotus over here. So you will write 0.4 offsprings per lotus per year. Okay, per lotus per year. Time period also have to be mentioned. So please remember, 0.4 per lotus per year has to be mentioned. You can get questioned what is the correct answer for this. In that 0.4 might be repeated, but see the other part of it. Is it written about the name of the organism is written, and whatever time period is being considered, is that being written? You have to check for that and then only go ahead. Similarly, my dear children, there is something that is known as death rate. Death rate means what? The number of individuals dying in a population per unit time. Yeah, and how do you calculate that? Again, the number of deaths that has taken place. For example, 4 fruit flies die in a population of 40 in a week. So what do you do? 4 divided by 40 is what you write up there. Now the death rate will be just this. 4 divided by 40 is equals to whatever number comes, that is 0.1. That's all. So yes, I mentioned about the time period, but again, in your NCERT, if at all you just do this calculation, that would be more than enough. Okay, that would be more than enough. So number of death or number of birth divided by the initial population size which was there, that's all. We'll be giving you the answer, but while you write the answer, always understand that you have to mention per per fruit fly per week. Okay, that means whatever organism is there and whatever time period is being mentioned over here, you have to mention that. Then only the answer would be correct. Correct, done. Now, again in individuals you talk whether, okay, when you just say that, okay, this particular individual is a female, that particular individual is what? A male. But when it comes to population, you do not say male, female and things like that. Rather, you use the term sex ratio for understanding how many males and females are there. So, proportion of males and females in a population, example 60% females and 40% males is what you say in the case of population. Okay, population. Fine, that's all. Very simple, okay. Now we go ahead. Now this part was super important over here. I hope you know that now, and I hope you know how to solve the numerical. The new number of organism dying or living, whatever, being born or dying, you have to write at the top, divided by the initial population size which was there. Okay, and write your answer per organism, per whatever time period is given. That's all, done. Fine. Now there is a thing that is known as age pyramid. Again, is this thing important? Yes, you get questions on the basis of it also. So age distribution and pyramid. Population consists of individuals of different ages. Don't you agree? Yes. There are organisms which in future will be reproducing. You call them pre-reproductive age group organism. Pre-reproductive, right? Now when you say reproductive age group organism, that means they are the ones that will be reproducing now. Now post-reproductive means, okay, they have completed the reproduction cycle. Now they are old. So that is what you mean by post-reproductive age group people. So we have 3 different age groups out there. Now age pyramid shows the age distribution in a population. Okay, it shows the distribution of age in a population. Pyramid shade indicates the population growth. For example, you have 1, 2, 3 types of pyramid. The first one that you see over here is expanding age pyramid. What is exactly happening over here? Here, the pre-reproductive age group organisms will be in more amount. They will be in the most amount. Then comes reproductive. That means in future, this pre-reproductive organisms are going to come up. They are going to reproduce, right? That is going to increase the population, which is why I'll call this graph as expanding. Or basically, I'll call this type of age pyramid as expanding age pyramid. In future, these pre-reproductive guys will be coming up, reproducing and increasing the population size. Now, there is something that is known as stable. This is the second one. Stable over here, if at all you see, the pre-reproductive and the reproductive age group organisms, they are almost similar. That means it's stable population size that is there. There is no decrease, there is no increase as well. Okay, same type of organisms will be coming up and reproducing. So, it's the same thing that is going to be maintained. Now, the third one is declining. What happens in declining, if at all you are seeing it carefully, the pre-reproductive age group organisms, they are in less amount. Reproductive in more amount. You get it? So that means in future you have less organisms to reproduce. If you have less organisms to reproduce, do you think population is going to increase? No, Baba, it is going to decrease. It is going to decrease, which is why you call this as declining age pyramid. So you have 3 age pyramid. Please understand that if at all you are seeing that pre-reproductive age group organisms are more in number, it has to be expanding. If you are saying it is very less in number, lesser than reproductive, then you say it is declining. If at all you say it's both of them are almost same, then you say it's stable. Got it? Yes, ma'am. Okay, fine. Okay, now let's try out a very important question. I was talking about this question itself that made my mind go a little bit twisted. So I thought, why not try it out with you guys also? So this is exactly from a line of your NCERT and you have to try it out, okay? So change in population size can be used to evaluate. Change in population size. If at all there is a change in population size, it can be helpful for me to understand what? Impact of predator, effect of pesticides, or introduction of exotic species, or all of the above. What do you think is the answer for this particular question? Now, before I go ahead with that, let's go ahead and see the answer which is given in your NCERT. Whatever ecological process we wish to investigate in a population, be it the outcome of competition with another species, the impact of a predator, or the effect of a pesticide application, we always evaluate them in terms of any change in the population size. So in that particular case, your answer would be all of the above. All of the above would be answer for this question. Why? Because change in the population size is actually there for evaluating all of this. So listen to me carefully. There's a predator in the community. Okay. How do I know its impact? What is it actually doing in the community? Basically by understanding the population size. If the population size is growing less after I introduce the predator out there, I get to understand that the predator is killing the organisms out there. If the population size is stable, I get to understand that predator is not doing much work out there, the impact is not that strong. You get it? So for understanding the impact of predator, what do I have to check? I have to check the change in the population size. Similarly, effect of pesticides. I want to see the effect of this particular pesticide. When I am spraying it, I am getting to see the population size is decreasing. That means the effect of this pesticide is really good on the pest. You get it? So that is another thing. Now third thing is introduction of exotic species. So I've introduced the exotic species and now I am wondering whether they do have some effect or not. Exotic species means something that I have taken from outside. They're not native species. They were not originally over here. I brought it from somewhere else. Now, when I'm bringing it from somewhere else again, to see whether they are causing an impact, are they causing any trouble, are they causing any changes, I have to find the change in the population size. I have to look for the change in the population size. If after I introduce them, there's a change in the population size, that means that yes, they also have an impact. You get it? Because whenever exotic species, we take it from outside and we bring it in this particular native area, what is going to happen? They're going to compete with the other species which are there. And that competition is going to either make the existing organisms population less or more. You get it? Mostly less only. So again, to understand the use or basically the features of this exotic species, I have to look for the change in the population size out there. So please remember the answer for this question is all of the above. So size in nature could be as low as below 10, such as Siberian cranes at Bharatpura wetlands in any year. So please know this example is also given. We sometimes just forget this. Please have this understanding, okay? So size can be as low as below 10 also. Below 10 number of, only 10, below 10 number of organisms are there. This happens in Siberian cranes at Bharatpur wetlands in any year, okay? Or go into millions also. The size can go into millions, such as Chlamydomonas in a pond. They divide very fast and they can grow really fast. Okay, so it can range from this range to this range. Just letting you know, because as I said, to many part of your NCERT, a question can be coming in, so I thought not to miss it up. Yeah? Yeah. Now the next question that I have over here is something similar. Again, it's given in your NCERT, but sometimes we tend not to understand these part of things. We just skip it off. So statement 1 says, population size is determined by population density. Is it? So population size, population density is something that we use interchangeably, is what is given in your NCERT. Okay, is what is given in your NCERT. Population size technically called population density. This is the exact line given in your NCERT. So population size is determined by population density? Yes, correct. I'll say statement number 1 is correct. Statement number 2, population density is not the meaningful measure of the population. Okay, population density is not the meaningful measure of the population. Do you think so? Then how do you measure the population? It's very difficult to measure the population if population density is not the meaningful measure, right? So this statement is actually wrong. And again, over here, please understand, there's a thing given in your NCERT, and that is population size, technically called population density, need not necessarily be measured in numbers only. So we generally measure them in numbers. Although total number is generally the most appropriate measure of the population density, here it is written. Although it is most appropriate measure of population density, in some cases it's either meaningless or difficult to determine. So listen, here it is written, in only some cases either it is meaningless or difficult to determine. It is not saying in all cases. So how can we put a statement like this? Population density is not the meaningful measure of the population. It is. In some cases, it definitely is not. We get to understand that. And population density is actually measured in the form of number. So number is something that is mostly being recognized. Apart from that, if at all you are asked that what is the other way for measuring the population and things like that, there is biomass. Okay, we can look for the biomass also, but that is something that is very rare. Mostly it's on the basis of numbers only that we determine the population density. And yes, population density is actually a meaningful source. Sometimes it can be meaningless when you're counting in terms of numbers, okay, and that is when you talk in terms of biomass. For example, there is a banyan tree and there are so many other Parthenium plants out there. Banyan tree is something that is very big. Parthenium plants are very small things. So one banyan tree, my dear children, if at all we say one banyan tree and 200 Parthenium plants out there, so basically we get to understand, oh my god, 200 and here only one? Here only one. So if at all we talk about numbers, that means Parthenium is very large. We think like that only. No. But actually, do you think it's very large? It's very small plant out there basically. Okay, it's a weed, it's a plant out there that is just there, small. But banyan tree is very big. So in these terms, I cannot talk about numbers. In this case, I should be predominantly talking about the biomass, because then only it will be more correctly understood. So I'll talk more about the biomass, because biomass of banyan tree is more than the Parthenium. You get it? So please know about it. Just a second, okay? Okay. So over here, statement 1 is correct and statement 1 is correct and statement 2 is incorrect. Your answer for this question is going to be B. Again, from your NCERT. Okay, so population density is definitely a meaningful measure, and mostly it is measured in the terms of numbers, but sometimes measuring in the terms of numbers would be meaningless and difficult to determine, which is why we look for that in terms of biomass, only in that particular condition. Okay, now we go ahead and talk about the factors that affects the population size. Listen, the population size, do you think it will be remaining the same all throughout? No, it is dynamic. That means it is going to change on the basis of certain factors such as availability of the food, such as predation, such as weather and things like that. So either the population can be growing or it can be in the declining phase. And there are 4 major basic processes that affects the population density or the population size out there. What are these 4 basic processes? One is natality, that means birth rate, which is denoted by B. Number of births in a given period. If number of births in a given period is more, that means the population density is also going to increase. Mortality. Mortality is what? Death rate. So number of deaths in a given period. That is what you mean by mortality. Again, if mortality is more, that means the population is decreasing, because organisms are dying. Then you have immigration. Immigration means what? I have a population over here. From somewhere else, I get new organisms up there in this particular population. Some people are adding up there. Okay, this is known as immigration. That increases the population density. So individuals entering the habitat from elsewhere is known as immigration. Now emigration is there. Again, emigration means there were number of organisms over here, but now they are moving out. When some organisms are going to move out, what is going to happen? Population density is going to decrease. So individuals leaving the habitat would be known as emigration. Okay, so please remember these 4 basic factors that affects the population density. Now population density formula is also there that you need to remember. If n is the population density at time t, then its density at time t plus 1 is. So if n is the population density at time t, it will be denoted by nt. And now what do I have to find? I have to find nt plus 1. That means population density after a point of time. How do I find it? With the help of this particular formula. So it goes like this. Nt plus 1 is equals to nt plus, okay, nt, that is the population at time t, plus birth plus immigration. Birth plus immigration, because both of them has a positive effect on population. Minus, there is a minus sign over here. Okay, you might not be able to see it, but there is a minus sign over here. Minus d plus e, what is death rate plus emigration. You get it? And then you put it in whole bracket. Fine. Again, I am repeating here, there is a plus sign, there is no into sign. This formula is important. We'll write it and we'll learn it. Okay, so it goes like this. Listen to me very carefully. Where will I write it? I'll write it over here. N t plus 1 is equals to nt, that is population at time t, plus whole bracket, inside the bracket again a bracket, b plus immigration, that is birth rate plus immigration, minus death rate plus emigration. Again, do the bracket close. Here the plus and here the minus is super important. Okay, this is going to be the population density formula after some particular point of time. Okay, now if b plus I is more than d plus e, if this particular thing is more than this, then obviously the population is going to grow, right? It is going to grow. There's an increase in the population density. If at all it's opposite, suppose this is more and this is less, then my dear children, it will be decline. The population density is going to what? Decline in nature, because you're minusing this from this. You get it? That's why we say that population is decreasing. Got it? Yes. Now, okay, so ma'am, there are 4 basic processes. Do all of them has the same impact on population density? The answer is no. There are 2 key influencing factors, and that is birth and death. So birth and death, that is natality and mortality, is the basic. They are the 2 main factors that we consider under normal condition. Now, if at all we say that basically some new colonization is happening, some new area organisms are coming in, and this and that, lot of things have been happening up there, then we talk about immigration and as well as immigration. So actually the 2 ones are natality as well as mortality. But as I said, if at all we say that organisms are moving from here and going elsewhere and staying, we also include immigration and immigration as well. Works? These are the factors affecting what? The population density, or you also say these are the 4 basic processes affecting the population density. Done? Done. Good. Now let's go ahead. Let's talk about the growth models. So there are 2 types of growth models. One is exponential and the other one is logistic. Exponential and logistic. And it's pretty much simple. So how do I show you? I show you like this. So listen to me. Just a second. This is going to be the time, and this is going to be population density. So when I have a graph like this, it means what? That when we go ahead with time, the population which is there, it is generally increasing, right? This type of graph which is there, it is known as exponential graph. Exponential graph, or this particular growth is known as exponential growth. It's growing exponentially. And over here, what type of curve do you get? You get a J-shaped curve. Now, do you think this can naturally happen? Very rarely. Just imagine a scenario when organisms are there and they are getting enough amount of resources. The resources are unlimited and they have enough space and lot of things. In that particular condition, yes, they are not going to compete. They are going to grow. But in nature, in actual nature, my dear children, things are quite different. Again, over here you have the time. Here you have the population density. Now listen to me very carefully. It is going to grow for sure. Okay, but then it will reach a phase where it is stable. The population density is not going to increase. So until this particular time, yes, it was increasing. After that, it is now stable. Why it is stable? Because each environment which is there, my dear children, it has one very important thing which you call as carrying capacity. Each environment has carrying capacity. It cannot carry beyond it because you do not have that much resources. If at all you go beyond that, organisms will die because they are going to compete for resources. So since talking about natural things, always remember you do not have exponential growth. Rather, you have a logical growth which you call as logistic growth. You have logistic growth over here, and always remember this type of curve. This is a J-shaped curve. It looks like a J, right? Here it looks like an S. So I'll call this as a sigmoid curve. This is an S-shaped curve. This is sigmoid curve. And over here comes carrying capacity. So whenever you have to search for, or you have to understand the population density over here, what do? You have a formula that is dN by dt. dN by dt is the population density after a particular point of time. And you write this particular formula. dN by dt is equals to Rn, where R here stands for birth minus death. Birth minus death is equals to R. You also say it's the intrinsic rate of natural increase. You also call this as intrinsic rate of natural increase. So if at all you have a population, a group of organisms which are reproducing, we say they have high R. High R value. Their R value is going to be high. If there is high R value, that means basically what? the population is going to increase. If there is low R value, that means they do not have too much amount of reproduction happening, which is why the population can go down as well, or can be stable depending on what is the R value. Got it? Okay, this is known as intrinsic rate of natural increase. Please remember, this is very important. Intrinsic rate of natural increase, and it shows the reproductive capacity because it is B minus D, birth minus Z. So if at all organism has high R value, that means it has more reproductive capacity, more birth is happening. More birth is going to happen, increasing the population size. Now so this is the formula for the exponential growth. What is the formula for this thing, that is the logistic growth? You have the same thing, that is dN by dt. You have Rn, but you also have one more very important thing, that is carrying capacity minus the population size divided by the carrying. So K minus N divided by K. That is going to be the formula for logistic growth. Okay, so until Rn it's both same, but here you have K minus N divided by K, carrying capacity also. You have to take carrying capacity into consideration in this particular type of growth. Okay. Yes, and usually you get questions like this, that Jiva was growing organism in very ideal conditions, but then sooner or later things are going to be limited. What type of growth does the bacteria show? So basically, since you are mentioning that the resources are going to be limited sooner or later, that means you're talking about logistic growth. If at all you're just saying that the organism is growing under ideal conditions and there is no mention, okay, there is no mention about anything being limited, then understand it is this. Naturally, it is not possible, only this was there. But in a preparatory, I saw one question where it was asked that ideal condition is there. They didn't have any mention about any limiting factors. In that case, it is going to show exponential growth and the formula is going to be like that. Good? Good. Okay. Now, let's read it out. Okay, so growth pattern. When resources, food and space are unlimited, population grows exponentially. Okay, that's when the population is going to grow exponentially. Population follows a J-shaped curve over time. Mathematical representation, dN by dt is equals to B minus D into N. B minus D is basically what? R, where B is the birth rate and D is the death rate. So if B minus D is equals to R, that is intrinsic rate of natural increase, it goes like this. The integral formula for this particular thing would be something like this. NT is equals to N naught, that is initial population, ERT. N naught ERT. This is going to be the integral formula. Okay, and that is a normal formula that I was talking about. Fine, please know about this also. All this information, super important. Now, NT is what? The population size after time t. N naught is what? The initial population size. R is the intrinsic growth rate out there. E is the natural logarithmic base, that is 2.718. Okay, E is going to be the natural logarithmic base, which is 2.718. General thing. Okay, and T is the time, you know that. Right, now over here, examples of R value. Norway rat. Okay, Norway rat has an R value of 0.015. Is it good? It's not that great. That means the R value is less. That means over here reproductive capacity could be less. When you say floor beetle, okay, floor beetle, it's 0.12. Here it is 0.015. Here it is 0.12. So which one has a better reproductive capacity? It is going to be floor beetle. Floor beetle has a better reproductive capacity. What about India's human population in 1981? It was 0.0205. Still better than this, okay, 0.0205. So few R values are given in your NCERT. It's better if at all you can remember. Okay, it will be really good. 0.015 is for Norway rat, floor beetle is 0.12, and India's human population in 1981 was 0.0205. Okay, yes. Now key insight, even slow growing species like elephants can reach huge numbers under unchecked exponential growth. So even slow growing elephants, you know, they are very slow growing, they have a very less R value. Still, my dear children, okay, they can undergo exponential growth. If at all there is no predator, there is nothing that is going to harm them, there is nothing to compete them, and they have all the resources which are there. So ideally, if at all you provide resources to anything out there, it is going to grow exponentially. That is what you mean by that. That's all. Okay, so NT is equals to N naught ERT, that is the integral formula that you have to write, and I hope you remembered these R values. Okay, R is basically nothing, intrinsic rate of natural increase denoted by B minus T. Okay, if R is more, that means reproductive capacity is more. That's all. Yes. Okay. Now, where are we? Yes. Logistic growth. In nature, resources are limited. We know that. So, exponential growth cannot continue indefinitely. It cannot happen continuously, right? As resources become scarce, that means becomes less, competition is going to increase and only the fittest is going to survive as well as reproduce. So, maximum population size that an environment can support is called the carrying capacity. The maximum population size an environment can support is known as what? Carrying capacity. A plot of n in relation to time results in a sigmoid curve. We know that this type of population growth is also known as Wurst-Pearl logistic growth. What do you call it? Wurst-Pearl logistic growth. This is also what you call as the logistic growth. I hope that is clear. Now, phases over here of the logistic growth is lag phase. There is a lag phase. There is an acceleration phase where it increases. There is a deacceleration phase where it slowly drops down, and there is asymptote where it is basically reaching the carrying capacity. Lag phase, acceleration phase, deacceleration phase, and asymptote as in when it reaches the stability. Right? And over here the formula is this. Now what they can ask you is, they can give you this particular picture and they can give you the curves and ask you the formula for this. So please know, here it is dn by dt is equals to Rn, k minus n divided by k. Here it is going to be dn by dt is equals to Rn. That's all. Okay? And here time and population density. That. Wurst-Pearl logistic growth is also known as logistic growth. Simple. Fine? Yeah. So now, one very important thing for everyone who is preparing for KCET. My dear children, I hope now you are aware about KCET 30, right? It's a 30-day online crash course that we are having, where there will be KCET previous year questions along with their solutions. Apart from that, first and foremost, complete syllabus coverage of your PU1 as well as PU2, and the PYQs that I was talking about, they will be also provided to you in test format, so that you can go ahead and try for attempting the test in a proper timing and things like that. And there will be 10 full-length ABHYAS mock test also given to you. So ABHYAS is our test series. Out of that, few mock tests will be given over here also. 10 of them are going to be given over here. And the start date for that is 21st of March 2026. And the pricing for this is Rs 2499. But it will not remain the same. It is going to change soon after 25th Feb. So make sure you take it up. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Now, if you are planning to just have a mock test, okay, the link will be given in the description section. You can go check it out. You have to fill in your number and then you will get a PDF. So this is just a free KCET mock test we thought of giving it to you. As of now, I don't think you might be requiring it because you are busy with your second PU preparation, right? So it's okay. But do not forget about KCET 30 and do not forget to enroll for it. Yeah? Yes. Okay. Now, reproductive fitness and strategies. Do you know that according to Darwin, fitness means high R value. That means high reproductive capability. That's all. High R value means when you say R value is high, that means birth rate has to be high. If birth rate has to be high, that means reproduction is also going to be high. You get it? So, Darwinian fitness is equals to what? High R value. Only the organisms which are able to sustain will be able to reproduce, right? So, yes. If I say that some organisms fit, I also mean that they are reproductively fit. Got it? Yes, ma'am. Fine. Now, organisms adapt to maximize reproductive efficiency based on selection pressure. Okay. So, type of reproductive strategies. Single time breeders. So, forget about this thing. Okay. Let's talk about reproductive strategies. There are two types of organisms. Single time breeders means throughout their lifetime, only once they are going to reproduce. Please remember, you have been asked this question. Okay, two examples are there, very simple. Salmon, Pacific salmon, and also bamboo tree. Pacific salmon and bamboo tree, both of them are going to breed only once in their entire lifetime. Done. Then multiple time breeders are there. Multiple time breeders means they are going to breed multiple times in their life cycle. For example, human beings. For example, birds. For example, dogs, cows, cats, whatever you have to take. That means mammals. So multiple time breeders breed many times in their life. Example, birds and mammals. This is not something that you have to remember. You know it. Okay. Please categorize in your brain. There are things that you have to remember. There are things that is you know, but you try to remember that also. You get it? So this is something that you have to remember. Single time breeders, you just have two. Pacific salmon and also bamboo. You also call these organisms as simulparous organisms, the ones that that breed only once. And the ones that breed multiple times, you call them as heteroparous organisms. Done. Okay. Now, offspring production strategies. So there is a strategy where many offsprings are produced all at once. Okay. Examples, oysters and pelagic fishes. Pelagic fishes are the ones which are found in the middle of the ocean, not in the bottom, not towards the shore, or in the open sea region, sorry. Okay, so many small offsprings are produced by these organisms. Examples, oysters as well as pelagic fishes. Now, few large offsprings are produced, and these few large offsprings which are going to be produced, they are going to survive really well. They have highest survival number, okay, or high survival rate out there. Example, birds and mammals. Okay, we produce twice, thrice, okay, and basically what happens, so organisms which are going to produce, they will be sustaining as well, right? Okay. So offspring production strategies, many small offsprings. Okay, in that particular case, what is going to happen? The quantity is going to be high, but survival rate is going to be less. Oysters and not Pacific salmon, it is pelagic fishes. Don't get confused with Pacific salmon and pelagic fishes. Pelagic is an area, basically I'm talking about the open ocean fishes out there. Yeah? Yes, that's all. So please remember, this is a very important part from which you can get questions in your KCET and also in your second PUC. Yeah, and according to Darwin, fitness is what? High R value. That's all. Reproductive fitness. Cool. Now we talk about the population interaction. And how many type of interaction do we have? Mutualism, where both the organisms are going to benefit. So when I say both the organisms are having a mutualism relationship or population interaction, basically I mean that both of them are going to have a positive effect on each other. Plus. Competition. Competition is something, when you're competing with me and I am competing with you, both of our brain is going to be chick. So basically, I'll just say, Chumma is just for an understanding, but in competition, what is going to happen? Since you're competing, there is going to be loss in both the sides. So it is a minus-minus relation. Don't think that there's a plus-minus relation. It's a minus-minus relationship that is there. So minus. This is where most of you do the mistake. Predation. Predation means tiger is there, deer is there, tiger eats a deer. Tiger is benefited, it gets its food. Deer dies, so deer has a negative impact. So it is a plus-minus relationship. This is minus-minus, this is going to be plus-minus. Okay, now what? Parasitism. Parasitism, again a parasite, for example, leech. Leech drinks our blood. Our blood, we are losing the blood, negative impact. What about the leech? It is getting the blood, positive impact. So one is getting positive impact, other is getting negatively impacted. That is parasitism. Parasitism and predation is both the same. Positive, negative interaction is going to be happening. Commensalism. Commensalism is when an organism is getting benefit from another organism. But the other organism which is there, it is neither harmed nor benefited. Okay, neither harmed nor benefited. This is the case of commensalism, and this one I love. Okay, for example, you might have seen cows and cattle egrets. So cattle egrets are basically some birds which move around the cow. Why? Because whenever the cow moves, whenever it moves, basically it with its leg, small insects are going to fly, and the cattle egret is going to feed on those insects. So cattle egret is relying on the cow, cattle egret is getting the benefit. Is the cow getting harmed anyways? No. So this is commensalism. So plus zero relationship. Now commensalism is there where you are affecting an individual, negative effect is there, and so there is a negative effect, and the other organism which is there, it is neither getting benefit or nor getting profit of it. Get it? So it is a minus zero relationship, about which in your NCERT there is no explanation, but please know it is minus zero relationship. Okay, you are harming an organism, one organism is being harmed, other organism is neither being harmed nor being profited. That is commensalism. Yeah, done. Now, predation, parasitism and commensalism share a common characteristics. The interacting species live very closely to each other. So please remember, in predation, parasitism and also commensalism, predation, parasitism and commensalism, always remember they have a common character, and that is what? These organisms, the interacting species, are going to stay close to each other. Then only they will be able to do these interactions out there, population interactions. Okay, did you understand it? Very important. Predation, parasitism, commensalism share a common characteristics. The interacting species are going to live close by. Done? Done. Okay. And yes. Okay, so now we talk about the first type of population interaction, and that is predation. But before I go ahead, I have a very important question to you guys. Do you think predators are actually useful? So when we say tiger eats deer, we feel very bad for deer. But do you actually feel that tiger is somehow playing a very important role in our ecosystem? If at all you're not feeling that, I'll give you reasons to make you feel otherwise. The first reason is that, my dear children, any predator which is there, it is helping us maintain the energy throughout the ecosystem. Why? Because predators, when they eat the prey, basically they are transferring the energy. Now predators, when they are getting killed and they're eaten by some other predator, apex predator out there, they are transferring that energy. So you need a channel to transfer the energy, right? Yes. For example, if at all you talk about, it's not about tiger and deer. A deer eat the grass. Deer eats the grass. So whatever energy is stored in the grass, it is going to be transferred into what? The deer. Now whatever organism eats the deer, that is going to transfer the energy to itself. You get it? So we need a channel for energy transfer, otherwise it will be just staying in one particular trophic level, and obviously that is not going to maintain the ecosystem. So we say predators are conduits in energy, in transfer of energy. What do you mean by conduits? Conduits means channel. They are channel. So this is a very important PU2 question. Explain, why do you call predators as conduits of energy transfer, and also why do you call them as prudent? So conduits and prudent word is very important. Conduits basically means that they are acting like a channel in between. Okay. Now over here, predators maintain the prey population. That is the second important thing that we have. How? So basically just understand, a tiger is there, deer is there, so many deers are there. If at all tiger goes and eats so many deers, what is going to happen? It knows that tomorrow I am not going to have my food. And tomorrow I will not have anything to eat, right? Because it ate all the deers. Do you think the tiger will be able to sustain? No. Obviously, the prey population is getting down. The predator population will also go down because it does not have the food. If at all the prey gets extinct, you have to understand the predator will also become extinct. Which is why we say that predators are prudent in nature. They know, they are clever such that they know that I cannot have all the organisms. Even though I'm very much hungry, I will not have all of it. I'll just have few of them. I will maintain the population such that they reproduce and tomorrow I have enough food. Okay. So if a predator overexploits its prey, both may become extinct. So natural predators are what? Prudent to avoid this. That means they're clever enough to avoid this. So if at all you are asked, explain why predators are conduits. Explain like this, that basically they help in transfer of energy from the lower trophic level to the next trophic level. Now predators are prudent. What do you mean by that? Predators does not overexploit its prey because it knows that it will also become extinct if at all the prey population has become extinct before. Got it? Yes. So please know that. And now we come to the third reason why there should be predation. So my dear children, so there was a cactus. We call this as prickly pear cactus. It used to look like this. Okay. It was an invasive species. That means it was something that we brought from outside. Suppose this is an area and then this area there is no prickly pear. I found the prickly pear is so beautiful and I got it from outside and I have it now over here. The problem with the prickly pear cactus is that basically it is going to compete with the native plants out there. The native means the plants which are already over here. Invasive means something that is invading over here. You also call them exotic species. So exotic or invasive species, when they come over here, they're going to compete within the other organisms, and the other organisms which are already existing over here, they may get extinct. They may get extinct. So now what can be done? Suppose there is a predator over here which can go and feed on the prickly pear cactus. Don't you think their population will be under control? And obviously, which is why they will not be competing very much with the native species, right? This exact thing happened. This exact thing happened in Australia. Now, all these examples which are there are super important. Prickly pear cactus in Australia was controlled by a cactus feeding moth. So what is the predator over here? The cactus feeding moth. So the moth which was feeding on the cactus made sure that the prickly pear cactus population is less. You get it? So isn't the predator important? Yes, the predator is very much important. Invasive species spread quickly due to absence of the natural predators. Yeah, invasive species which are there, which I am bringing from outside, they are going to spread quickly. Why? Because they will not have any natural predators. They are very new to this, which is why there is no predator. But if at all I include a predator over there, what is going to happen basically? Yes, then population will also go down. So that is why predator species is super important. So you can frame this point like invasive species can lead to competition and may lead to extinction of some other species, which is why if at all we introduce a predator out there, this predator can check the population of the invasive species as well. Yeah. Now the next thing, predators are also good biological control agents. You might have heard about biopesticides, okay, or biopesticides means pesticides is usually chemicals we add on the plants and basically it will not allow the pest to grow. That is what you mean by pesticide. Biopesticide means an organism that is going to feed on other organism that is going to act like a pest. For example, caterpillar which is there, you know it is a pest for plant. Why? Because it is going to feed on the leaf of the plant out there. What if I introduce some organism that will be eating this particular or basically killing this particular caterpillar? Works, right? So similarly, BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, a microorganism, a bacteria which was there, it is sort of like a predator for what? For the caterpillars which were there. And they are biocontrol agents as well. So obviously, it is used in agriculture to control pests naturally. So predators are super important in this particular field also because they act like biological control agents. Now what do we have? For maintaining species diversity. Predators are super important for maintaining species diversity. What do I mean by that? Just imagine there are so many deers over here. What is going to happen if there is an increase in the prey population? Basically, they are going to compete within themselves. Food will be limited. They will be competing within themselves. And what is going to happen? Obviously, some of them may die. It will also get extinct. And there might be a time they may get even extinct. So, what if a predator is being introduced over here? The predator which is there, it goes and targets the weak organism. Okay, when it targets the weak organism, you need to understand it does not target any healthy organism. It carries a weak organism because it can be easily caught, right? First of all, it is removing any unhealthy genes out there, right, by targeting the weak organism. Second thing, whenever you are making the prey population less, obviously the competition among themselves is also going to become less, which is why it can help in maintaining the species diversity. So have you ever thought like that? Predators can be this useful, right? So predators reduce the competition among what? The prey species. Example, starfish disaster removal led to the extinction of several species of American Pacific coast. So listen. So there were so many species in the American Pacific coast, okay, Pacific coast, and there was a predator actually. The predator's name was Pisaster. This is a starfish, okay. The name of the starfish is what? Pisaster. So this Pisaster starfish was there, and it was all cool when it was there, but now when I removed this particular predator, what happened is that so many organisms which were in the American Pacific coast, they died. Why? Because the competition now increased, the prey population was increasing, there was limited resources, so competition increased and they were dying. But if at all the predator was there, it could have eaten up some of the prey, the competition could have been less. And obviously extinction would not have been taken place out there. So don't you think that for maintaining the species diversity also we need predators? Yes, my dear children. Example for this is this. Examples are super important. Prickly pear cactus was an invasive species. It was controlled by what? Cactus feeding moth. Who is the predator? Cactus feeding moth. Okay. Next thing, you had Pisaster, which is a starfish. It was there in the American Pacific coast. Okay, American Pacific coast. Now, when it was removed, what happened? So many species in the American Pacific coast, they got extinct. They have not mentioned what species and all, so you do not need to remember that. Examples are clear. That is also super important. Got it? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Next thing. In predation, my dear children, what do you call it? The predation, which is a population interaction that is pretty much long, so we should be having an understanding of it. Okay. In predation, there are some defenses which are there in the prey. So it's not like predator will go and eat and go and eat and go and eat. If at all it does that uncontrollably, what is going to happen? The prey will not be there, and obviously the predator will also get extinct. I told you, right? So which is why prey species have some defense mechanism against predators. Okay, now this is also one famous question. In the case of animals, the most famous one that you have is basically two things. Okay, one is cryptic coloration, basically camouflaging. For example, I paint myself yellow and I stand over here, or basically on this particular side. the same color I paint myself, do you think I will be visible? No. So suppose there's a predator who is feeding on me, who is trying to feed on me. He or she will also not be able to see me. You get it? So that is known as camouflaging, cryptic coloration. And this is what you see in the case of insects as well as frogs. Where do you see it? Insects as well as frog. You might have seen frog, which is their tree frog and all, they look green in color. And when they sit on the leaf, green leaves, they won't be able spotted out there. Why? This is a what do you call defense mechanism that they have for themselves. So the first one that you have in the case of animals is what? Cryptic coloration. The second one is poisonous species, and the most famous example for this is monarch butterfly. The monarch butterfly, my dear children, they look so pretty. They look so pretty, but all the things that are pretty might not be really good, right? Similarly over here, they actually have stored toxins in them. They have stored toxins in them. And basically if some organism comes and eats that, basically that organism could even die. Okay, so the monarch butterfly, which looks extremely beautiful, has some toxins. Where do they get the toxins from? So when they are in the developmental stage, at that particular point of time, they feed on a plant which is poisonous, and that is how they take in the toxins out there and store them up. That's how they get the toxin and they store them up. Okay, so I'll show you the picture of monarch butterfly as well. It is this. You might have seen this butterfly. Okay, so it has stored toxins within them, which again acts like a defense mechanism for this particular organism. So in the case of animals, you have two things. One is camouflaging, that is cryptic coloration, seen in insects and frogs. The second one is poisonous species, that is monarch butterfly. Now, the next thing is in the case of plants. You know, 25% of the insects are phytophagous. 25% of the insects are plant eating. That is what you mean by phytophagous. Okay, they are plant eating, my dear children. And do you think the plant has some defense mechanisms against it? Do you think the plants have some defense mechanism against us? Obviously, yes. The first type of defense mechanism is morphological defense. That means in their structure, they might have some changes which might help in their defense. For example, having thorns. And thorns are found in the case of acacia as well as cactus. Thorns are found in the case of acacia and cactus, and it acts like a morphological defense. It does not allow the organism to basically come and sit on the top of it or eat it, because it will be very difficult for an organism to eat with the thorns, right? So that is one thing. Now the chemical defense is something else, and this is very, very important. Basically, again, the plants itself, they produce some toxins, and the most famous one is seen in the case of calotropis. Have you seen calotropis? Now when I show you calotropis, you will be like, oh my god, this is calotropis. So calotropis is something like this. You might have seen it grows very wild. Okay, it grows in wild areas where nothing is being controlled, right? It grows up there. And this calotropis, my dear children, it contains some cardiac glycosides. What does it contain? Toxic cardiac glycosides, which if eaten by the cattle, it can bring out some very bad effects in the cattle, which is why the cattle will not prefer eating it. That is why it grows also. So always remember, this is a chemical defense. It is seen in calotropis. And what does it have? It has stored toxic cardiac glycoside. What does it have? It has stored toxic cardiac glycosides out there. Got it? Now, commercially important plant chemicals. Listen. So as I told you, there are toxins being produced. Now, certain toxins or certain defense mechanism, you might have heard about it, these toxins out there. For example, nicotine. We get nicotine from the plant. Yes, we get nicotine from the plant. Now, nicotine is a drug also, and you know it has effects. So just think, it actually have effects, which is why the plant releases it. And that effect will be passed on to the organism which eats it, and probably that organism will not prefer eating it again. You get it? So nicotine is one, caffeine is the next one, quinine is the third one, strychnine is the next one, and opium is the next one. So opium and all you know. Nicotine and opium you know. Opium we get from opium poppy or Papaver somniferum. Apart from that, you have caffeine. Apart from that, you have quinine. Apart from that, you have strychnine. Okay, please remember these names. They are originally evolved as, so we say that they are very important plant chemicals, but actually it's produced as a defense mechanism. Okay, it is produced as a defense mechanism. Nicotine, quinine, caffeine, strychnine, and also opium. Got it? Yes, ma'am. Okay, so this is done. Prey defenses, I hope it's clear. In the case of animals, camouflaging, that is shown in insect and frogs. Second one is production of toxin substances in the case of monarch butterfly. And where do they get the toxins from? Because in their developmental stage, they feed on some toxic plants out there, store their toxins and keep it ready. Okay, now the next thing that we have is plants defense mechanism. In the case of plants, we have morphological defense, for example, thorn, that is found in acacia as well as cactus. Then we have chemical defenses, for example, what you see in calotropis. They contain toxic cardiac glycosides out there, and yes, okay, fine. The next thing that we have over here is competition. So predation is completely done. Please remember, Pisaster was an example, prickly pear cactus was also an example. Now we come to the next thing, that is competition. Predation was a plus-minus relation. Plus for the predator, minus for the prey. Competition, my dear children, always understand it's a minus-minus relation. I already told you it's a minus-minus relation. You need to remember that also. Both the organisms are going to have some effects on it, which is why it is minus-minus. Okay? So listen to me very carefully. There was a guy whose name was Gauss, and Gauss gave a principle which is known as Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. It says that two species cannot coexist indefinitely if they compete for the same limited resource. You and me, okay, or me and some other species are there. Basically, we cannot coexist together in a particular area if at all we are feeding on the same resource. Why? Because you also always need to understand that the one which is stronger in nature will be out-competing the other one. So please remember, Gauss's competitive exclusion principle says two species cannot coexist indefinitely. For some time it can, but for an infinite period it cannot. Okay? If they are competing for the same resource, and that is known as competitive exclusion. Now, if resources are limited, a superior species eliminates the weaker one, and this is clearly seen in Abingdon tortoise case. So, Abingdon tortoise was there, my dear children, in an island, and over here it was feeding on the grass. You know that, right? Tortoise will be eating that. Now, one fine day, goats were introduced in this particular area. What happened was the goats overtook everything. Okay, they started having grass more, and it led to the extinction of Abingdon tortoise out there. Which one is superior species? Obviously the goat. Which one is inferior species? This one. That is the Abingdon tortoise. So isn't competitive exclusion working over here? Yes, it works. So I have a picture for that I'll be showing you. So this is just a Chumma picture. I think it's an AI generated picture. So on the top of a tortoise, you have basically a goat standing. That means that it was the superior species and this was the inferior one. Just for an understanding it is given, okay? Now, listen to me. Competitive release is the next thing. So competitive exclusion, I hope it's clear. We saw the Gauss's competitive exclusion principle. We saw an example for this. So this and this is related. Now we come to competitive release. What do you mean by that? A species expands its range when a competitor is removed. That means, listen. So in the sea coast, my dear children, there was an experiment that was been done by Cornell. Please remember this thing. Sometimes they ask you, explain the Cornell's elegant field experiment. So you should know what is this experiment all about and who gave it. So Cornell's elegant field experiment is, it happened in Scotland, okay? And so there were two barnacles. Okay, one was Balanus and the other one was Thalamus. There were two barnacles, one was Balanus and the other one was Thalamus. Balanus was the superior one. That means the dominant one. And the thalamus was the smaller one. That means the inferior one or the weaker one. Now what exactly happened was, basically over here in the intertidal region, okay, in the intertidal region, the Balanus, so initially you had the thalamus, and thalamus basically it's spelled like this, C-T-H-A-L-M-S, M-U-S. So there's a C which is silent, always remember that. Now over here what was being introduced? The Balanus. So Balanus which was there, it went ahead and now tried to compete with what? These thalamus out there. And what happened? What happened at the end of it? Basically the thalamus were removed from this area and now they shifted up. They shifted up to the other region. What exactly happened? The organism that is Balanus extended their area and went ahead and occupied all of it. So a species expands its range when a competitor is removed. So when the competitor is removed, the species is going to expand its range, and that is known as competitive release. It's important. Questions have come. Okay, what do you mean by competitive release? A species expands its range when the competitor is being removed. Example, Cornell's elegant field experiment in Scotland. The larger and the competitively superior barnacle balanus dominates the intertidal area. Dominates what? The intertidal area, and excludes the smaller barnacle thalamus from that particular zone. And again, do you have a picture? Yes, you have the picture. Okay, so balanus was there. Now the thalamus, my dear children, it moved upwards. It didn't get the intertidal region. So basically their region starts from here and goes up there. Get it? So yes. Now coming back. So do you think always competitive exclusion is going to happen? One organism is going to get excluded. That is how it is always going to work. What do you think? Competitive exclusion happens, then competitive release happens, or whatever happens. What do you think? Does it work like that? The answer is no. There is strategies where organisms try to coexist. Okay, where they not exclude, but they try to coexist. This is opposite. And that strategy, one type of that strategy is known as resource partitioning. Resource partitioning. So species divide resources to avoid direct competition. Example, MacArthur's warbler foraging at different times, locations in the same tree. So warblers are these birds, my dear children. Okay, so in MacArthur's experiment, it was found that basically in a plant, all of them are feeding one particular plant, right? Now they will have different areas to feed. They have divided it. They have partitioned their resources, or if not dividing their area, they have divided their time as well. So some people might come in, some organisms might come in the morning, some birds might be coming in the evening, such like that. So what does it avoid? It avoids the direct obviously there is competition. There is competition still existing out there because the resources are going to be limited itself, right? But there is avoidance of direct competition. How do you do that? By resource partitioning. What is the best example for that? MacArthur's warblers are the best example for that. Okay, so in competition, we heard about Gauss's competition principle, competitive exclusion principle. We saw an example where Abingdon tortoise was excluded, got extinct because of introduced goats out there. Then we spoke about competitive release, where Cornell's experiment was being considered about balanus and thalamus. Yeah, balanus was balanus. Balanus was the dominant one, and basically it expanded its area when the competitor was being removed. Okay, it dominated the intertidal area. That's all. Fine. And then we spoke about coexistence strategy. Here a competition is there, but it is a method to avoid direct competition by doing resource partitioning. Done? Done. Okay. So now there is a question. So instead of putting this as a competition term, I'll ask a question. Which competition, or what type of competition, which type of competition is the major force in evolution? Which type of competition is the major force of evolution? According to Darwin, he said that interspecific, that means competition between the species, between two different species, is a major force in evolution. Not intraspecific, not the competition within the species, it is interspecific competition that is going to be a major force of evolution. And always remember, it is not limited to related species. It's not like two related species are competing. It's not like that. Sometimes it can go beyond that as well. For example, flamingos and fishes. Flamingos and fishes, both of them, one is a fish, one is a bird. Are they related? No, they are not at all interrelated species, right? Still they are competing for what? For zooplanktons out there, which are found in the aquatic area, for the zooplanktons. So basically, yes, it is not limited to related species, it can be unrelated species as well. But always remember, interspecific, okay, between two species, interspecific competition is the major force in the case of evolution. The one that sustains. Okay, and the one that does not get extinct out. Now, interference competition. Presence of one species reduces another efficiency even if resources are abundant. So that is what you mean by interference competition. This is something else altogether. So please listen to this particular thing. What do you mean by interference competition? It's that resources are there, but since some other species is there, Basically, I am not able to efficiently use my resources somehow. Even though resources are there is, because of some other species which is present over here, it reduces my efficiency. That is known as interference competition. You're somewhere getting interference. So it's not a direct competition that is happening, but yes, indirectly this thing is there. This is known as interference competition. Just know that term, that's all. Okay. So you know the examples for it, we studied it, and now we move to the next type of population interaction, and that is parasitism. Here also there is a parasite which gets the benefit, and there is a host that gets negatively impacted. So there is a parasite and there will be a host. Okay, so a relationship where the parasite benefits at the expense of the host is known as parasitism. Yeah, and always understand that host which is there, it tries to parasite which is there, it tries to co-evolve just like the host. However, the hostess is trying to co-evolve according to the host, such that the parasite can stay inside the body, or basically it can stay relying on that particular host. So parasite and host co-evolve. Host resists, parasite adapts to it. What do you mean by that? Suppose there's a parasite inside my body. What do you call these type of parasites? First of all, there are two type of parasites. Ecto, that stays on the surface of a body. Endo, that stays within our body. Okay, endoparasites and ectoparasites. Now, basically, if at all a host persist by providing some kind of resistance against the parasite, what is going to happen? The parasite is going to evolve in a way that it adapts to this. Okay, such that it can still sustain out there. So always remember, host specific evolution is happening in the case of parasites. And parasites, my dear children, they have very special adaptations, and this is something that is usually being asked, so please know about it. First one is loss of unnecessary sense organs. It does not have this and this. Why? Because it has to move around freely. There is no point of having a sense organ out there. That is why it does not have any sense organs. So loss of unnecessary sense organs will be there. Second thing, presence of suckers and adhesive organs. What do you mean by that? So listen to me carefully. Presence of suckers, as in it does not have any limbs, as in hand or legs and things like that, to hold on to one particular place. So if at all it wants to stay at one particular place, what do you need? You need suckers. The suckers helps it be adhesive to the surface wherever it is staying. So please remember, it has suckers or adhesive organs to stay at one particular point and take the nutrition. Next thing, loss of digestive system. Why do you think they do not have a digestive system? Because, my dear children, digestive system is there for breakdown of food, right? For breakdown and absorption. Listen, in the host body, again, the breakdown is happening by using the host machinery. Suppose it's our body, okay? It is our body, and the parasite that I'm talking is a tapeworm. So in our body, the food is going to get broken down anyways. We have our intestine, we have a lot of things for that, right? Now, the parasite just needs to do one thing, that is absorb whatever is being broken down. So do you think it needs its own the digestive system? Does it have anything to break down? It just has to absorb things, which is why there is a loss of digestive system. Obviously, it is not needed, right? Now, high reproductive capacity. The parasite, once it is there inside the body, it has to make sure that it is making a colony of it, because it has to sustain. It has to sustain, which is why it has a high reproductive capacity as well. So please remember these four things for sure: loss of unnecessary sense organs, presence of suckers, adhesive organs, loss of digestive system, and high reproductive capacity. Not mug it up, think about it and then study. Now, complex life cycle. Always remember, in the case of parasite, they mostly have a complex life cycle where there is involvement of multiple hosts. For example, the basic thing that we have studied is Plasmodium. Until now, we have studied in human health and diseases. Plasmodium is a parasite that causes what? Malaria. That causes malaria. Here it needs two hosts. One is going to be the mosquito, that is the female Anopheles mosquito. Apart from that, it also needs humans. So doesn't it need the host? Yes. Over here, in the case of humans, they do asexual reproduction. In the case of mosquito, they do sexual reproduction. So that is how it keeps on going. So these two hosts are needed. So don't you think it's a complex life cycle where there is a requirement of two hosts? Yes, definitely. Similarly, you have one more thing that you have to remember over here is that mosquito is not just a host. It is also going to be a vector. vector as in a carrier. So sometimes the parasites which are there, they also need, not sometimes, they always need what? A vector also, or carrier also, to transfer their stages into different organisms out there. So this is just one example of Plasmodium, since you have already studied about it. But there is one more, and you need to know about this. Okay, this is important, and that is human liver fluke. Have you heard about it? Human liver fluke. It's a flatworm. Now this human liver fluke again has host. One is a snail, other one is a fish, and obviously there is one more host, and that is human being. So over here it is a definitive host. It is definitely going to require this. In between that, this is the target area where it is going to affect, but in between that it has two intermediate hosts. Two intermediate, that means in between host, that is a snail and a fish. Now is that a question, ma'am? Yes, this question also came. What are the two intermediate hosts, or basically what is the host for human liver fluke? So it is both snail and fish. They complete their stages somehow in both of these organisms, and then it is transferred to the human beings. So human beings, whenever they have uncooked fishes and things like that, that's how they get it. Okay, so yes, so often involve so complex life cycle, as in the case of parasites, they often involve intermediate host. Example, human liver fluke, a trematode. It's a trematode, my dear children, and it needs snail and fish. What does it need? It needs snail and fish. So trematode comes under platyhelminthes, or basically what you call as flatworms, and it needs two intermediate host, snail and fish. SF. Please remember this, do not forget it. Apart from that, malarial parasite requires a vector, that is mosquito, for transmission. Apart from that, I told you it also requires host. One is human being and one is the mosquito itself, right? So mosquito here acts like a vector as well. So that is what, so they didn't want to repeat the thing. So just an understanding, parasites which are there, they need multiple hosts, and apart from that they will also need a vector. So over here they just given you the example of mosquito as a vector, but you know that it's a host as well, right? Yes. Now impact on host. What impact does it have on the host? It reduces the survival, growth and reproduction of the host. So in whichever area it is going to affect, it is going to obviously target those areas. For example, you have this thing, roundworm, Ascaris lumbricoides. You know, it affects the intestine. It leads to internal bleeding. It leads to anemia, a case where your blood cells are less. So isn't that a problem? Yes. Isn't that affecting your survival? Yes. So please know that. So it makes the host weaker and more vulnerable to all the other predators which are there. That is also one big problem of parasites. So please remember the adaptations of parasite, the complex life cycle, examples of it also given. Done? Done. Now, the types of parasite, as I was talking about it, there are ectoparasites and there is endoparasites. Ectoparasites lives on the host surface. For example, you have lice on humans, lice as in basically the one that is there in the hair of human beings, right? So lice in the humans, ticks in the case of dogs. And the dog surface you might have seen black small thing, those are ticks, and copypods in the case of marine fish. Now this is something that you do not remember. Ticks and lice you remember. Please remember copypods. Copypods are also external or basically ectoparasites out there, and what do? They are going to be a parasite on the marine fishes, as in the sea fishes out there. The sea fishes, copypods, marine fish. This is something new. This is something that you have to remember. Okay. Apart from that, the ectoparasite that you have is Cuscuta. Cuscuta is found on the case of plants. Cuscuta, you call this as Amarbel, you also call this as Dodder. Basically, the Cuscuta which is there, it does not have chlorophyll. So can it do photosynthesis? No, Baba. It cannot do photosynthesis. So in that particular case, don't you think it has to derive its nutrition from a plant that has chlorophyll that will be doing photosynthesis? Yes. So they are yellow in color since they do not have chlorophyll pigments, and basically they have some structures like this which you call as hostoria. Okay, which you call as hostoria. With the help of hostoria, they are going to get inside the xylem and phloem and take in all the nutrients from the plant. So again, it's a parasite and it's an ectoparasite. It's on the surface, it just takes in, it just goes in through the hostoria, but it does not live inside the host. You should know that. That is why it is an ectoparasite, not an endoparasite. Now mosquito, what do you think? It's a parasite or not? mosquito which is there, do you think it's a parasite? No, mosquito is not a parasite. Mosquito is not at all a parasite. So, for example, when I say the mosquito drinks our blood, you need to understand there is female mosquito, there is male mosquito. The male mosquito does not drink the blood. It is a female mosquito and needs it only for the reproduction process to happen. So, it's not like it is there for survival. Okay, it does not need blood for survival, it's for reproduction process, which is why I will not consider mosquito as a parasite. This is a text that is given in your NCERT. It is not a parasite. Why? Because it does not contain blood for survival, it's just for reproduction process. Done. Now you have endoparasite that live inside the host. For example, they are found inside the organs like liver, kidney, lungs, RBC, etc., etc. And always remember, endoparasite, you saw the examples for that, human liver fluke, plasmodium, all of them are endoparasites. And my dear children, remember they will always have a complex life cycle in comparison to ectoparasite. Okay? So until now, whatever we studied, there were more of the endoparasitic adaptations which are there. Fine. Now, so I hope this is clear. Ectoparasite, lice, ticks and copepods. Copepods on marine fishes. Apart from that, cuscuta is a plant parasite on what? Plants. And mosquito is not a parasite, right? You know that. Endoparasite have a complex life cycle and everything that we studied was about endoparasite. Human liver fluke, plasmodium, everything, each and every example given there. Now there is a term that is known as brood parasitism in birds. This is also super important. What do you mean by brood parasitism? So my dear children, you know what? Crow which is there, it lays its egg in the nest. Okay, this is crow's egg. What exactly happens is, a cuckoo will be coming and laying an egg in the crow's nest. Now you might think, why is it doing it? So, when the crow comes, crow provide all the warmth and the nourishment, everything to these eggs. So ma'am, it is white in color, doesn't it recognize it? Listen, I just made it to make you understand. Always have this in your head that koel or cuckoo has adapted in a way, evolved in a way. Koel has adapted, okay, not crow. Koel or cuckoo has adapted, or I'll say evolved in a way that it resembles the crow's egg. So I say the parasite has evolved in a way that it looks like the host's egg. Host is what? The crow out there. So cuckoo egg resembles the crow's eggs to avoid detection. This is a very important question. Does the crow evolve itself? No, it's the cuckoo's egg which has evolved. Okay, it's cuckoo's egg which has evolved. And this type of parasitism is known as brood parasitism. This is brood parasitism. Rude parasitism is what I remember. Very rude, no? Very rude to do that. So the crow does not know that. Crow provides nourishment, crow provides everything, which is why there is a plus-minus relationship. Okay, because it is harmed, it is giving its energy to something, to growing something else which is not its own. That is why it is coming under parasitism. And the example is brood parasitism. Always remember, the koel or the, the cuckoo which is there, it evolves in a way that it resembles like the host egg. Cool? Yes. That's all about parasitism. And now we come to the second last population interaction, which is commensalism, which is one of my favorite also. Commensalism is a relationship where one organism gets the benefit, other organism is neither harmed nor benefited, which is why it is a +0 relationship. It's an interaction between two species in which one species benefits while the other is neither harmed nor benefited. Example, orchid on the mango tree. So basically, on the mango tree, my dear children, if suppose this is a mango tree out there, on the top of it, somewhere, okay, the orchid grows as an epiphyte. Okay, it grows as an epiphyte. Why? It does not need any food from the mango tree. It just needs an area through which it can get enough sunlight. So is it harming the mango tree? No. Is the orchid getting the benefit out there? Yes, it is. It is getting the benefit because it gets the sunlight enough to do the photosynthesis process. So you get it? Orchid on a mango tree, orchid gains support and mango tree is what? Unaffected. It is unaffected. Now barnacles on whale. So if at all you have seen, my dear children, on whale you might have seen this small structure out there. This is barnacle. Remember barnacle, we studied there also, balanus and thalamus. Similarly, you have barnacle over here and it is there on the surface of the whale. What does it do on the surface of the whale? It basically needs a transportation medium to move from one area to the other. So is the barnacle harming the whale? Is it benefiting the whale? But is the barnacle getting benefited? Yes, it is getting free transportation out there. So again, this is the +0 relationship. Who is getting positive effect? It is barnacle. Got it? So barnacle get a surface to attach and whale is unaffected, and basically the barnacle is there for transportation. Now, cattle egret and the grazing cattle. Cattle egret and the grazing cattle. So you might have seen these two guys. Cows, around the cows you might have seen the egret out there, cattle egret, it's a bird, right? What does it do? So when the cow moves around like this, basically lot of things comes upwards, insects, and these insects are being eaten up by the cattle egret. Does the cattle egret harm the cow? Does it benefit the cow? Is it getting benefited? Yes, which is why it is a +0 relationship. Cattle egret and the grazing cattle. Done. The last one that we have is clownfish and sea anemone. So over here, the thing is that you might be given its organism's name and you might be asked, what type of interaction do they show? So you should know about them individually. That is very, very, very important. So over here, my dear children, when I talk about this, clownfish gets protection and from sea anemone gets no apparent benefit. Clownfish gets protection and the sea anemone gets no apparent benefit. So this is the tentacles of the sea anemone. These are the tentacles of the sea anemone. And inside that you have the clownfish, that is finding Nemo, right? Nemo is over here. So clownfish is over here. What is the benefit of being here? Basically protection. Clownfish gets protection. What about the sea anemone? Does it get any benefit or is it getting harmed? No, it is not getting benefited nor getting harmed. So I'll say that clownfish gets protection and anemone gets no apparent benefit from it, and this is known as commensalism. And this is known as what? Commensalism. One very, very important thing. Okay, please know about the 4 examples for this. Super important. Do not mug it up, imagine it and then learn. You will remember it even more better. Got it? Done. Now the last one that we have is mutualism. Is what? Mutualism. What is mutualism? It's a type of interaction where both the species benefit from the relationship. It's a plus relation. Example, lichen. Example, mycorrhiza. Example, something else. So please listen to me very, very carefully. Okay, over here, lichen is a combination of algae and a fungi. This is what? Lichen. Cool. Now we have one more thing, mycorrhizae. Here, fungi is common, but instead of algae, you have the plant roots. These are 2 types of relationship, lichen and also mycorrhiza. This is basically symbiotic relationship that you have. Both of them are going to help each other. Okay. Over here, algae which is there is going to provide food. Why? Because it is able to produce its own food. That is why it will be able to provide the food to fungi. Plant also, you know, it is photosynthetic in nature. It can also provide food to the fungi. What does the fungi do in both these cases? That is important. So the fungus over here in the case of lichen, it provides protection. It over here, this one provides protection and also some nutrients. Provides protection to what? To the algae. Similarly, in the case of over here in the mycorrhiza, fungi which is there, what does it do? It basically helps in the absorption of one very important thing which is known as phosphorus. Do not confuse it to be potassium, it is phosphorus. Okay, so fungi absorbs the phosphorus from the soil because sometimes plant roots may not be able to do it, but it can go deeper and can get phosphorus. Apart from that, it can provide resistance to pathogens out there. Apart from that, it can provide tolerance to salinity, that means high amount of salt and things like that. Apart from that, it can help in overall plant growth and development. We studied this in what? In the chapter Microbes in Human Welfare. These things are being provided by the fungi over here. So both the cases, one is going to be a producer which is going to produce the food and give it to the other organism, which is fungi. Here also it's plant. There it is algae. Okay, and lichen is a symbiotic relationship between fungus and algae, cyanobacteria. Fungus provides protection while algae produces the food. I told you, in mycorrhiza, association is between the fungi and the plant roots. Fungi helps absorb nutrients and the plant provides carbohydrates because it can produce its own food. Always remember, the fungi which is involved in mycorrhizae comes under glomus. This is another chapter thing, but still I am telling you, glomus. And lichen which is there is a pollution indicator. It cannot grow in areas where there is pollution. It's a pollution indicator. Now this is also from another chapter. This is from evolution, this is from microbes and human welfare. Now, plant-animal relationship. Pollination and seed dispersal is also shows mutualism. Why? So plant provides nectar, pollen or fruits and animals helps in pollination out there, right? Both of them are getting benefit. Plant is basically providing nectar or sometimes some pollen grains or sometimes some fruits also, or probably a shelter for the organism to lay the egg. The pollinator which comes over here helps in the pollination, and that's how the reproduction process is going to happen, which is why I'll say that plant-animal relationship or basically a plant-pollinator relationship comes under mutualism. Now, co-evolution. Flowers and pollinators evolve together to maintain their interaction. So, you might have seen the pollinators which are there and the flowers which are there, they evolve together to show what? To maintain the interaction. That is known as co-evolution. That is also been seen. So, mutualism example is lichen, mycorrhiza. Apart from that, plant-pollinator relationship also comes under mutualism. But please read your question really well before going ahead and answering it. Okay. Works? Okay. Now, there is specialized mutualism. Some extra example. For example, fig and wasp. So, fig trees are pollinated by a specific species of wasp. It is fig which is there. It is pollinated by specific species of wasp, and the female wasp lays eggs inside the fig fruit and the larvae feed on the developing seeds. What happens to the wasp? Wasp is basically going ahead and laying its egg, and basically this egg gets nourishment, everything from the developing seeds out there which is there in the fruit. Now, wasp ensures pollination while searching for egg laying sites. So what is happening? Both of them are getting benefit. One is getting pollination being done, that is the fig tree, and one is getting shelter and also some food, that is the wasp. Okay, so please remember this fig wasp relationship, and also remember that fig is a result of inflorescence. Okay, fig, whenever we talk about fig, always remember it is inflorescence, not a flower. It is inflorescence, not a flower. It comes under inflorescence, not a flower. So if at all you are getting a question that fig flower and wasp shows mutualistic relationship, wrong. Fig inflorescence, and this shows mutualistic relationship out there. So please remember that. Okay? Yes. Now, orchid bee mutualism. This is very important. It is also known as sexual deceit. So sexual deceit means being cheated over here. So orchids evolve special floral patterns to attract the right pollinators such as bees and bumbles. And this orchid has a special name. Some orchids such as Mediterranean orchis. There is an orchid whose name is Mediterranean orchid. It used sexual deceit for this particular case for pollination to happen. And I'll tell you how. So over here, my dear children, this is a Mediterranean orchid out there, which you call as orchis, right? This orchis looks like a female bee. What happens? The male bee which is there feels that it's a female bee and tries to come and copulate over here. Do you think it's actual copulation? No. Why? Because an actual female bee is not over here, which is why we'll call this as false copulation, or you call this as pseudo copulation. Pseudo copulation. In this particular case, what is going to happen for sure? Basically, for sure, whatever pollen grains are over here, my dear children, will be transferred onto the surface of the male pollinators. And pollination is definitely going to happen up there. Now, what is the benefit for the bee? Bee will also get some pollen grains out there. It can eat it. And apart from that, it is also doing pseudo-copulation. So that is the only thing. But over here, isn't the bee getting cheated? Yes. This is why we call this as sexual deceit. This is why we call this as sexual deceit. So yes, mutualistic relation is happening over here, but sexual deceit is also happening over here. So some orchids like Mediterranean orchis use sexual deceit. Flower petals resemble a female bee. Male bee pseudo-cooperates with the female with the flower, picking up pollen and transferring it to the another flower. Co-evolution. If the female bee's appearance changes, the orchid must evolve too. Then only things will happen, right? So if at all the female bee's appearance changes, the orchid also have to evolve. Co-evolution has to happen over here also. Otherwise, all of the plan is going to be failed. So this here also there is a mutualistic relationship. Do not think it's a different thing, but this is an example of sexual deceit as well. The name of this orchid is Ophrys, Mediterranean Ophrys. Yeah. Apart from that, you have fig and vase for giving an example of plant and plant and pollinator relationship out there, and lichen and mycorrhiza is also there. Right. Done. With that, we end this particular chapter. One very important thing: in commensalism, one organism is getting negatively harmed, other organism is neither getting benefited nor harmed. That is commensalism. The example for that is not given in your NCERT. But do you want to know about it? If yes, let me know in the comment section. And if at all you think that this video had helped you in some way, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends also. Wishing you all the best for your boards. Please take care of yourselves. Lots of love. Bye-bye.